Welcome back from that short break. Like I said earlier, we're discussing achieving digitalized intercity travels in Africa. And my guest, who's reaching us all the way from Berlin via Skype, is Ezra Anajonu, co-founder and CEO, Boss 54. Hello, Ezra.
Hello, Joy. Thank you for having me.
We have so much to discuss, but first of all, let's talk about the challenges Africa faces. If you can just give us a good picture as to what are the challenges in Africa when it comes to intercity travels.
Yeah. Thank you once again for having me on the show. Is great to be back. Africa faces huge challenges in the transportation sector. That is mostly because intercity transportation especially is fragmented and very cash-based. Now, what that does to the ecosystem is that transport operators, almost 90% of them who are offline, are locked out of financial infrastructure and products, which means that in most cases they have no access to credit or facilities that will enable them grow their businesses. They now need to rely on used buses for operations, which are more polluting and less energy efficient. That's on one hand. On the other hand, again, due to the lack of digitalization in the transportation sector, there is little to no information around planning, routing, scheduling, and pricing. Now, in the middle of this perfect storm is the customer or the passenger. All of this leads to very poor passenger booking and travel experience, which if you've traveled by road for intercity journey in any city in Africa is what obtains at the moment. So those are the challenges we face. Now we can talk about the lack of infrastructure, and I'm not going to talk about the lack of infrastructure or the state of infrastructure as it is, because no matter what, people still need to travel. What I will say is that when you look at the share or the proportion of investment needed to improve or upgrade rail infrastructure, the amount needed or the amount required for investment will not keep pace with Africa's population growth. So for the foreseeable future, for intercity journeys, most Africans will still rely on road transportation. And that's the reason why at Boss 54, we're very bullish about digitalizing intercity road transportation.
When you talked about infrastructure, I wasn't sure. Are you talking about the structures that needed? Are you talking about roads? Are you talking about an intentional policy by government? There's so many challenges this sector faces indeed. But if you can narrow it down, what did you mean when you said infrastructure?
So I had the opportunity of traveling by road in across a number of cities in Nigeria in February, and yes, the state of roads is quite challenging for any transport operator. But for me, the key issue is despite the inadequate road infrastructure, people still need to travel.
And they do.
Exactly. And so rather than focus on what we don't have, my team and I are focusing on what we have control over, and that is ensuring that passengers have great booking and travel experience.
Do you foresee that more transport companies will join you? I mean, we'll see private sector championing this with you, especially considering the state of Nigerian roads, for instance. I mean, I think they'll have to think twice rather, if they have to go into this sector. And I spoke with some people in the same sector who are not so optimistic. You seem very optimistic, passionate about this, but I've met and spoken with people who do not seem so optimistic because of the challenges in the roads, the security challenges as well. Have you factored this in when you think about Boss 54, especially for Nigeria?
Yes, so yes, that has been factored in. So a couple of things I will say to that. So if you want to travel from Lagos to Abuja, the question to ask is, what are the alternatives, or what are the options? You can fly, yeah, from Lagos to Abuja, which is very expensive at the moment, by the way. And really, a lot of people have been priced out of the airfares, and this is due to no fault of the aviation companies, by the way. The other alternative is you drive yourself, yeah, or you travel by bus. Yeah, we don't have a train, a rail route from Lagos to Abuja. So when you look at the alternatives, considering that you need to travel, I'll give an example. If you have, say, a candidate has an interview in Abuja, lives in Lagos, has an interview in Abuja, right? That individual, the biggest option or the best option left to that individual is to travel by road.
Of course.
Yeah. So, and that's the point I'm making, that other intercity transport options are either too expensive or there are no connections, which leaves bus travel. And that's the reason why we are bullish.
Okay, and the security aspect of it?
Yeah, so the security aspect of it, there are common sense things one can do. So, for example, traveling, leaving early, yeah, so that you arrive early. I've had situations where, you know, because of the manual nature of the operations of transport operators, you go to a bus, you go to their terminal, pay for your ticket. In fact, in some cases, you pay a day before, and you have to wait until the bus is full before you depart. Now, when you do depart, in my experience, the driver, after about 10 minutes, looks for a petrol station, they are going to refuel.
You
right?
do have done your homework. That's exactly how it goes.
Yeah, which adds another 30 minutes to the journey time. So your actual departure time is like 40 or almost an hour later than when the bus left the terminal. And all of this is completely avoidable. If you switch to a digital platform, individuals are able to book for your buses. They're able to book tickets days before their travel day, which gives you the cash flow to plan. If your booking for Friday is confirmed, say a Toyota Sienna, 7 seats, confirmed as at Wednesday, it means that those buses, the Siennas, can be fueled on Thursday evening, ready for the passengers to depart on time at 7 a.m., which means you will get to your destination early. So from a security perspective, there are common sense things we can do, but from the part of on the part of the transport operators, they will leverage those benefits if they switch from offline cash-based transactions to digital cashless transactions.
Okay, now that we have set the pace and we have established the challenges in the African transportation system, let's talk about Boss 54. First of all, what is Boss 54? Why the name Boss 54?
Yeah, that's a great question, and sometimes I forget to explain why it's Boss 54. So obviously, for 90% of Africans, bus transportation is the preferred option for intercity journeys. It's affordable and such like. That number 54 stands for the 54 countries in Africa. And our ambition is in our name. We intend to scale the technology across the 54 countries in Africa. We will not achieve the ideals of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement if there isn't that seamless movement of people across countries. It's why we are bullish about the road transportation sector, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. And we intend to bring this solution to every African.
Okay, I mean, I've seen the strides. I've seen what you've done in Nigeria. You're collaborating with government and private sector, several institutions. However, are you getting that much reception in other African countries?
So we are taking a measured approach. We spent a great deal of time in Nigeria understanding the Nigerian market, which happens to be the biggest in Africa. And we're building our foundations really strong. So yes, we are getting a lot of reception, a lot of interest from other African countries. We will be announcing partnerships with a number of institutions who will be supporting us on our journey to transform the transportation sector in Africa. So our approach is quite unique in the sense that the business model wasn't copied from anywhere in the world. We looked at Africa's unique set of challenges around transportation, looked at the way we do business in Africa, and built a model that is very African. And so when we explain the model and the benefits for institutions partnering with us, they find it quite refreshing and want to be early movers or early adopters, or early partners. We had such conversations, in fact, today, we'll be sharing details in the coming weeks and months, so look out for that.
Okay, and I'll be here waiting to hear some of those details. But when you do your map and check out the entire continent, would you say the challenges we face in our transportation is dynamic or it's just the same?
Yeah, so great question. There are slight differences depending on the country, but up and down the continent, the challenges still remain the same. So South Africa, for example, I know very well. If you want to travel from Cape Town to Johannesburg, for example, by road, you still have to go to a bus terminal a day or two to book for that bus and then go back on the day of travel to travel. So similar situation to Nigeria is the same in Ghana, is the same in the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. So the major challenges are similar, but there are, however, like certain nuances depending on the country. But what we're looking at is the major challenges and the commonalities across the continent, and we're focusing on that and bringing and building our solution around addressing those challenges.
Okay, let's talk collaboration. I mean, I read about the latest, which is with an insurance company. What do you hope to achieve partnering with an insurance company? Would passengers enjoy this, or it's for drivers, or it's for the vehicles?
So we're building not just a platform, but an ecosystem where everybody's a winner, right? So for passengers, it means back to your security and safety issue. It means that when they book on our platform, they automatically get travel insurance, which gives them that extra peace of mind. For the insurance company, we're also able to support them around getting to know transportation companies better, right? And having data that provides actionable insights. So travel patterns, peak journey times, and such like. Those are data that, as an institution, you need for planning. We're able to provide that to our insurance partner. Also, what we found with drivers, for example, that because passengers rate drivers at the end of the journey, what we've seen from over 8 months worth of data is the drivers tend to be more professional, which has led to safe driving habits, right? So from an insurance perspective, when you combine safe driving habits with roadworthy buses, the likelihood of an accident occurring significantly reduces. So all round, for passengers, they're able to get a pleasant booking and travel experience. For drivers, there is a check on them to make sure that they drive safely, which means they get every day get to go back home to their family. And insurance industry, they are able to get vital data with which to plan and to carry out actionable or to gain actionable insights.
Right. Let's just give us another insight. Are you going to have your own terminals as well? Are these drivers going to converge somewhere different from the regular parks where they already converge at? I mean, how is it going to work? Or can I book using the bus 54 platform on any terminal?
Yeah. So the answer is not on any terminal. So there are certain requirements we need from transport operators who are on our platform at the moment, and that includes the transport operator owning or operating their own terminals, right? So that is really essential, so passengers know where the pickup, where the departure point is, and where the drop-off point is when they get to their destination city. So that is one of the criteria for joining our platform. Again, is part of the safety measures we put in place so that the departure and arrival points are clearly known to our passengers. And just on the topic of safety, one of the safety features we put in, and we're very proud of it, and this was from insights and feedback from our passengers. When you're booking a ticket, when you get to seat selection, you are able to view. So the seats are color coded by gender, right? So you have visibility of the gender of who you are going to sit next to.
Wow.
Which on one hand gives women choice, and on the other hand, it also ensures that you have a level of control over, where you want to sit. That is, so there are nuances to the safety measures we sort of built in. In some cases, they're not explicit, but trust me, we've put quite a lot of thought into ensuring that our passengers not only have a pleasant booking and travel experience, but they also do that safely.
Okay, let's talk technology. Nigerians, a lot of them are not yet that technologically savvy, and most people who use the bus transportation system are of a certain cadre in the society. So we get the ones who would very effortlessly fly. In fact, the rail has become a transportation system for a certain part of the society, the rich, if you may say. However, this segment of society you are targeting, do you think they are technologically savvy enough to be receptive to this innovation?
Well, so what we've done around technology is rather than reinvent the wheel, we look for opportunities to integrate into existing infrastructure. For example, transport operators really don't need to invest in IT hardware. Our application can be used with any smartphone, right? And what we've done with our transport operators, which has saved them cost, is they have actually invested in smartphones for their drivers. And all the drivers do is they download Bus 54 QR code scanning application, and they use that to validate tickets, right? So when a passenger presents their e-ticket on their phone, all the driver does is scans using the QR code scanning app the ticket, and it validates that the passenger is this is the right terminal the passenger is traveling from and the right date. So we don't believe in reinventing the wheel. We look at existing infrastructure, look at how we can tap into that. And I mean, the market has also given us a lot of insight. So initially, we made some assumptions, which the market told us, well, no, that isn't right. So, for example, with payments, with our third-party payment provider, we assumed that card payments will be popular. And the reverse from our data is the reverse was the case. Payment by bank transfer has been more popular than card payments. And so the market itself, or the passengers are really giving us, through their actions, are really giving us a lot of insights that we're feeding back into our product development.
For those transport companies that have already tapped into technology, would they need you? I mean, they might not have the option of having passengers pick their seats with in terms of gender. They might not have the many other taps you have in there. However, why would they need you when they can do that for themselves? I know some transport companies who already you can book online.
Yeah, so it becomes a cost issue. So one of our key drivers is we want to make transport operators operationally efficient. Pardon me. And so it comes down to cost. For some transport operators, the question to ask is, what is my technology costing me? If it's costing me 25% or 30% of my operating cost, and there's a solution that is costing me 5% of my operational cost, then I mean, that's a decision they need to make. But don't forget that also there are 90% of transport operators in Africa that are offline.
90%? I didn't know that.
Almost 90% of transport operators, intercity transport operators, are offline. So it's only a handful that are online, right? And so it becomes a decision point for the transport operators. We are growing. We have strong ambitions. We're building strong alliances and partnerships. And yeah, time will tell if they see the value of what we bring, and they make a switch, and in so doing, significantly reduce their operational costs. But having said that, our focus is on small transport operators who operate and really want to make that transition to full digital operations. That is really our focus. For these individuals, they know that technology can be a game changer in their operations. And increasingly, we are seeing them seeking us out and saying, hey, I want to digitalize my end-to-end operations. I love what you're doing. This is how transportation should be run. Those are the people we're looking to attract. That's on one hand. On the other hand, in the coming months, we'll be launching our all-in-one software. That is actually targeted at transport individuals that intend to go into transportation. So we're opening up this space where individuals in Nigerians or Africans in diaspora can see a transparent technology platform, which means they can invest in owning or running a transportation company, and we use our technology to reduce their time to market. So they're not sitting down and thinking of a software developer that will build the application for them. They're saying, hey, I want to run a transportation company. As a group of friends, we're pulling funds together and buying 5 or 6 buses, right? At that point, they are not thinking of technology. They're thinking, we'll plug into bus 54, right? That reduces their time to market. Yeah, so they're able to recover their funds as quickly as possible because they don't need to worry about the technology. And wherever they are in the world, they have full visibility of their end-to-end operations.
Wow, that's exciting. But Ezra, we'll have to go for a short break right now. Believe it or not, we've gone half hour into the conversation, but we'll be right back after this. We're still discussing achieving digitalized intercity travels in Africa. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still Joy Asonye Live, and we've been discussing achieving digitalized intercity travels in Africa. We'll be discussing all of this with Ezra Anajonu, co-founder and CEO Bus 54, an innovative intercity online bus booking platform. Ezra is reaching us all the way from Berlin via Skype. Hello, Ezra.
Hi, Joy.
Okay, it's good to know you are right there. But let's talk about this cost. I mean, you narrowed it down, and I could already start seeing myself investing in the transportation system, something that has been too bleak for some of us to even consider. But I cut you short there when you were talking about an opportunity for others to join in and not bother so much about the technology of it. How viable is it?
So when you and there are horror stories, most Nigerians and Africans will have had horror stories of either their parents or a loved one, a friend, going into transportation, buying a couple of buses and being at the mercy of the drivers who come back and, at the end of the day or the end of the week and say, I am only returning X amount of money because, for 3 days I didn't travel. And such like. And over time, that has eroded trust in the transportation business. It's the reason why a lot of people backed away from transportation. And what Bus 54 is all about is bringing back the transparency. So as the owner of a transport company or a group of friends could decide they want to pull funds together. I'll give you an example. In agriculture at the moment, you have a silent revolution going on, which has gone unnoticed by a lot of people. And I know this because a lot of my friends back in Lagos, young professionals, will pull funds together. So a group of 4 or 5 friends will pull funds together, go outside Lagos, buy a huge tract of land, and go into agriculture. And they are not farmers in the real sense of the word. There are accountants, there are lawyers, there are engineers, but what they bring is an understanding of how processes work or how a business works. And you will find that their output over time and the yield they get, because they apply modern farming techniques, is more than the yield of the peasant farmer. Right? Now, it's the same revolution that is about to happen in transportation. For the first time, the technology is there, which means young professionals can, as a side hustle, pull funds together, launch a transport company, buy buses that will operate on the Bus 54 platform, and there is full visibility and transparency around revenue collection, around routing, scheduling, and pricing. So it makes it easier for new entrants to come into transportation.
You have talked about routing, scheduling, and all of that. You've also mentioned the collaboration with insurance companies. Is this going to make it more expensive for passengers?
No, far from it. It's actually going to make it cheaper to travel. Now, for example, passengers who book with us at the moment get free travel insurance. That's not charged to them. That comes free. So if I've learned anything from rapid industrialization and rapid growth of certain industries, competition and rapid growth sort of brings about the affordability factor. So transportation prices will not significantly go up because of using Bus 54's technology. If it's going to go up, it will be other factors that are outside the control of Bus 54. For example, fuel prices.
Okay.
But the fundamentals will remain the same. That we are committed to providing Africans with aviation-style booking and travel experience for road intercity travel.
Would there ultimately be a standard for the vehicles? Because some of these cars are dilapidated.
Yes. So remember I said earlier that one of the root causes of the fragmented nature of transportation in Africa is due to the fact that the operators, their operations is mostly informal, so offline, and cash-based. And because of that, they are locked out of financial infrastructure and products. Of course, the unintended consequence or the consequence of that is that they cannot access the financing they need to buy new buses. They have to rely on used buses. Now, on our platform, again, part of our safety measures and ensuring that our passengers have a pleasant travel experience, we're able to track distances of the buses. And so where the bus is approaching 5,000 kilometers, for example, the transport operator has to provide evidence that the buses have been serviced, brake pads, tires, etc., changed. And that is one of the reasons why our insurance partner is delighted to collaborate with us, because we have that safety mechanism or that check in place to make sure that the buses on the platform are roadworthy.
So who takes, I mean, you just said the insurance policy or that the passengers will enjoy will be free. Who takes this cost? Is it the bus owners?
No, so as part of our partnership with our insurance partner, we are able to absorb the cost of the insurance. The most important thing is really providing our passengers with that great booking and travel experience. We are bullish about what we're doing, our vision, and yeah, we are really delighted that we're able to offer our passengers this offer, and that they don't need to worry about the cost of our tickets, being very expensive, because we provide all of these extras. Our prices, tickets are priced competitively on our platform. They're some of the lowest costs anywhere in Nigeria at the moment. And in addition to that, we give travel insurance, so passengers have that extra peace of mind.
Anajunu, I mean, I must ask, you're providing innovation and you're providing so much. While it's quite noble and commendable. What's the need for you? You've not told me where you would make money to sustain Bus 54.
So our revenue model is quite simple. We take a percentage commission on tickets booked, and that is able to sustain our operations. Beyond that, like I said, we are focusing on building the digital infrastructure that will power passenger transportation in Africa. Huge profits is not of interest to us at the moment. What is of interest to us is building that infrastructure and providing Africans with aviation style booking and travel experience for intercity journeys. We are bullish about the benefits kicking in further down the line. But as you know, with infrastructure, physical infrastructure projects, if you're building a bridge or you're building a skyscraper, the benefit doesn't come the moment you lay down your foundation. So you need to build that patiently. But I've always said it's an exciting time to, if you're not considering going into transportation, it's an exciting time to really consider it.
How do you think government can do better to enhance or support this innovation of yours? I know you have knocked on some doors in that regard, but basically, how can this terrain be easier for you from the government side?
Well, I mean, the government has done quite a lot already. So for starters, it's not just in Nigeria. We've seen this across Africa. That a lot of countries in Africa are pushing for a shift from cash-based transactions to cashless transactions. Now, it has had a huge effect, especially in Nigeria. I experienced this firsthand when I was in Nigeria in February. However, when you look at the long term, you realize that without credit history anywhere in the world, especially in Africa, you can't access credit. And so the shift to digital, the shift to cashless operations means that your operations is transparent, and any financial services company or institution can look at your books and say, hey, I can see 6 months worth of operations, and based on that, I can provide you with the financing you need to buy an additional 4 buses, 4 new buses. And because you are on a digital platform, I can model what that 4 buses, the additional seating capacity you have, what that will mean over the next 4 years, right? Okay. That will not be possible if the transport operator sits out and carries on operations in a sort of cash-based and informal manner.
Okay, that's exciting too. But now, is this what other African countries are facing? I know that Nigeria is trying to champion this cashless policy that you're commending right now. However, is it the same thing in other African countries where I feel like it's more cash based? So,
when you look across Africa, in South Africa, for example, where our tech team is based, and my co-founder and chief technical officer is also based. They are a bit ahead of Nigeria from a sort of cash-based transaction. So they're a bit further down the line. Their operations is predominantly cashless, or cashless is quite popular. Digital is quite popular. In Kenya, we see that with M-Pesa, it's, adoption is crazy. I mean, M-Pesa is just was one of the pioneers, if not the pioneer, of mobile money globally. So across different countries in Africa, there are there are nuances, but Nigeria is really trying to catch up with some of the leaders in cashless in Africa.
How would all of this help with movement of goods as well? I mean, is it just going to be person-based, human-based? Do you have plans for movement of goods and properties? I'm saying this because one of the biggest challenges we have in the agricultural sector is movement of goods, and the fact that about 70% of our products perish as well. Is that a sector you already, or you plan to someday look towards?
So that's an interesting question. I mean, the passenger the passenger or the intercity travel, intercity travel is quite a huge market and a huge challenge to solve across the 54 countries in Africa. And at the moment, that is what we're really focusing on. If we start looking at other sectors in transportation, I think that will distract us from our vision of providing aviation style booking and travel experience for intercity travel within Africa.
Okay, so how much work has gone down to getting these partners? I mean, how can people reach you? For you, because you just mentioned, like I said earlier, an aspect that is really interesting. I can understand people watching us right now feeling like, okay, we can come together, professionals can come together and do something, you know, get a vehicle and start with Bus 54. But how much are you getting these people, the reception, and Nigerians ready to do this?
Yeah, so we're getting quite a lot of interest. Again, that's we're working through our partners who are beside us on our journey. Increasingly, individuals are reaching out to us, groups are reaching out to us and saying, hey, we want to schedule a demo. So you take us through the end-to-end platform. We have a feel for how it works, etc. So we have a good pipeline of transport operators talking with at the moment, and we'll be onboarding hopefully soon, which will enable us to offer more routes to Nigerians, and just that, so they can also experience the Bus 54 factor, which is seamless travel and booking experience.
So where's Bus 54 at the moment? Right now, and if I want to travel to Cross River State, can I go on is it an application or just the website and book?
So it's the website is www.bus-54.com. And yeah, you can book that to Calabar.
Wow. Are there states within Nigeria that one cannot go to so far?
Yeah, so a lot of the routes. One of the things one of the decisions we made as a team is we're going to be open and transparent. When you come to our platform, the routes on display on the platform are actual routes that transport operators operate on. We decided not to map out the whole country and offer routes where you search and they tell you that route is not, and the website says that route is not available. So where you are searching for a route that isn't available on the platform, it means we're working with transport operators who will cover that route, and we'll be able to share it with our users within the shortest possible time. But yes, there are live routes on the platform, so please go to www.bus-54.com and enjoy the Bus 54 booking and travel experience.
Okay, is that the same website for people who might want to, not passengers now, people who might want to be sponsors or investors? Is that the website they would also go to connect?
Yeah, so they just simply need to send an email to info@bus-54.com.
Okay, can you say that again?
So it's info@bus-54.com.
Okay, so we're running out of time, but what's your final thoughts on this issue, achieving digitalized intercity travels in Africa?
So my final thought is, look, it's a real exciting time to be in the passenger transportation industry. For the first time, the technology is there that individuals can leverage on, and for individuals who are visionary, um, please come talk to me. Our inbox is open. We'll be delighted to schedule a demo. We'll be delighted to walk you through and be a partner with you on your journey to be a world-class transportation company. We'll support you with all the tools.
That's exciting. There's so much that's going to happen. I mean, it's a revolution in the transportation system in Africa. Ezra Anajonu, co-founder and CEO, Bus 54. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Joy. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, do have a wonderful, I'm not sure what time it is at the moment, but do have a wonderful time.
Yeah, thank you, and likewise.
Okay. Well, this is where we draw the curtains here on Joy Asonye Live. We've been discussing achieving digitalized intercity travels in Africa. My name is Joy Asonye. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Do have a wonderful evening.